Welcome back. This time we're talking about Free Fire, an odd little action thriller directed and co-written by Ben Wheatley, who gave us such films as High Rise and Sightseers. The movie boasts a all-star cast that includes Brie Larson, Armie Hammer, Cillian Murphy, Sharlto Copley, Jack Reynor, and Noah Taylor. The story is really simple. It's essentially a gun deal going down in a vacant warehouse in 1978 Boston. The parties include a group of IRA members, some gun dealers, as well as the people who brokered the deal between them. They're all supposed to meet, exchange guns for money, and leave happy. Of course, that's not going to happen if there's going to be this movie, and it doesn't because some bad things go sideways and suddenly everyone's got a gun and they're all shooting at each other. And after about 15 minutes of setup, the next 70 or so minutes is essentially this Mexican standoff where we have everyone shooting at each other. And really, you're not sure if anyone's actually going to make it out of the building alive. Now, as I said, this is a pretty odd little film. It's not something I can really compare to any other particular film or specific genre and say this is what you're going to get when you go see Free Fire. Obviously, the easy comparison would be Reservoir Dogs because that was an action, dialogue heavy type film all set in a warehouse. And yes, there are those similarities, but this is not a Tarantino film. It does feel at times like that might be what they're going for, but I'm not going to try to read their minds because it really is trying to do its own thing. And that is to have these quirky characters spouting off witty dialogue as they all crouch and crawl through this warehouse trying to kill each other and not get killed themselves. Now, the best thing this film has going for it is the actors. They just chew up every scene they're in. They just chew up the dialogue, and you can tell that for the most part they're having fun with what they're doing. Where the film falters a little bit is there's not really any one or two characters that you can just go, okay, those are the ones I'm going to root for. And going into a film like this, you just really don't know if everyone's going to die or only a few people are going to die or what. So at the same time, when you're trying to figure out who to root for, you don't want to put all your eggs in one or two baskets in case they're the ones that get knocked off first. And then you're like, oh, well, now what do I do? So it does have that against it a little bit as far as just investing in these characters. I don't think you're going to do that as much as, say, a Tarantino film where he has those really fleshed out, vibrant characters. For the most part, in this film, we get some moderately interesting characters elevated by the performances of the actors. Now, the one thing that I did like, and it's very different from your typical shootout movie, is that most of them can't hit the broadside of a barn. I actually described it to a friend of mine upon leaving as the anti-John Wick. As far as the violence go, because there is a lot of violence, because it's, like I said, this is essentially 70 minutes of people shooting at each other. Up until the last, say, 15 minutes or so, the violence is not very graphic. Of course, people are getting shot, they're bleeding a little bit, but there's nothing that's like just spouts of blood or, again, like a Tarantino violence level. That last 15 minutes, however, it feels like they sort of decided to switch up the violence, and suddenly we get some rather graphic scenes that aren't extremely gratuitous. It's just felt a little off compared to what we'd gotten before. Typically, I like my films as far as violence they go to, okay, set the tone and let us know what to expect and sort of stay there. It may be very high and very graphic like a Tarantino film, or it could be more, okay, people get shot and bleed, but we're not going to see, brain matter and exploding heads or anything like that. And here we have a pretty comfortable level of violence up until that last 15 minutes. It kind of pulled me out at really the worst time because it is when everything's sort of wrapping up. Now, while it did not live up to my expectations, I think I probably set those a little too high, I did find myself enjoying this film. I enjoyed the performances. I enjoyed the action. And for the most part, I had fun with it. It's like 85 minutes. It's not going to overstay its welcome. And it really didn't for me. I do feel that there are people who are going to go into this movie and go, okay, it was a bunch of people shooting at each other and then it ends. And that's essentially what this film is. So if that sounds interesting to you, and as long as you go in with tempered expectations, I think you can have some fun with this film. It's not going to be one that I remember as this like groundbreaking action thriller that made me laugh. It's just, oh, it's that action thriller movie that made me laugh. And that's sort of it. I enjoyed it, but I'm not like wow about it. It's just another action thriller that made me laugh, and I like those films. So as I said, it delivers more or less what you would expect from the trailers. I just don't think it delivers as much as I think some people are going to expect from it. So just know that going in. Now, if you've seen Free Fire, what did you think about it? And if you had to compare it to any other film except for Reservoir Dogs, what would you compare it to? I'm curious because I've really been coming up sort of blank on saying, okay, think of that film going into this one. So I'm curious what your answers would be. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.